The following program contains views that are not those of WVTC, iNetworks Communications, their subsidiaries, affiliates, or financial supporters.
Good God, Saturday afternoon, people of God. You have tuned into the Solutions Radio Show. I am your host, Pastor Correy Wright. As always, we know what the problems are. We know we need to solve them. What we offer on this platform is solutions, dedicated acts of action that bring about true change. Not to talk about change and no excuses. For excuses are man's tools of incompetence that build bridges to nowhere and monuments of nothing. Broadcasting live from the WVTC radio station here in Illinois, also our station in Detroit, Michigan. People, God, I am so excited about today's show because we're going to be talking about identity crisis. Who are you outside of your struggles? And also changing your positions. And this is based off of a therapy session I had with my therapist, and it is really going to bless you. Also, in some weeks, Solutions Radio Show is going to be changing, and I'll be sharing that with you soon. I'm excited. I had a conversation with the owner yesterday, and we about to go to the next level. You're not going to believe that. Also, I'm going to share with you my weight loss journey. I've in this weight loss process, I'm going to tell you how much I've lost, but you know, because of the job, I had to go to the doctor and see a weight loss specialist. And this is my third week in it, and you ain't gonna believe how much I lost already. So it's for me, it's like wait till June come. Oh man, but I'm gonna give you the information on a later date, and I'm gonna also have that doctor here as one of my guests. But I want you to see the results in myself first, and then I have our own, and we'll go from there. Today is such a powerful show because I want to talk about a therapy session that literally changed my life. It didn't change the lives of people who I've talked to about it. One of the questions that my therapist asked me, and I want you to think about that. He said, "Who are you outside of your struggles? You know, who are you outside of your bad experiences? Who are you outside of your letdowns? Who are you outside of your family growing? Who are you?" And the reason why that is important because many people contribute or attribute who they are today, what they've been through, you know, and study who God made them. You know, that, you know, if you look at a lot of times in gang banging, they always claim a block or a set. I'm from this set. I'm from this block. I'm over here. I'm from the low end. I'm from the wild hunters. I'm from this because they want to give themselves credibility being in a place that everybody deem is tough. So what happens is I'm from this place, but who are you? And the reason why that is important because we give more reference and more praise to where we come from opposed to the God that made us. And when my therapist asked me that question, I couldn't answer it. I broke down in tears because who am I outside of my struggles? Who am I outside of my experiences? I said, because my experiences and troubles made me. And he said, well, I'm going to add 2 words to that sentence and see if it changes your mind or changes your perspective. And the 2 words that he added on to that sentence was You are who you are in spite of what you went through. Because I want you to think about this. If God knew us before the foundations of the world, he knew he created us before we became a member of this world for this brief time we down on earth. And he already equipped us with what we need as far as the task he created us for. So the question is, and the reason why you say that is every time we give more reference to what we've been through, the struggles we've been through, we're giving the devil praise instead of God being praised for what he brought us out of. And also we talked about changing positions, and changing positions. Like he showed me if I would have changed my position in life in some of my situations or most of them, I would have had a different outcome. And many times we don't look at our participation in what we've been through in life, or we don't look at our position. There are many things since this therapy session that I had that I overlooked, far as relationships, far as church relationships, far as ministry, that if I would have changed my position and looked at it a different way, approached it a different way, I would probably still be doing ministry with people. I would probably be in some relationships, or I would probably be further ahead. But I reacted from my emotions because my emotional state was created by what I've been through, opposed to who I am. That the Bible says it rains on the just as well as the unjust, which means that the same storm that I have to deal with, the unjust has to deal with the same storm. Or the same storm that I'm dealing with, you could be dealing with, or somebody else dealing with. But how do we deal with that determines who we are, not the storm. Ooh, I'm on fire today. And I want you guys to look at that. And today's show is identity crisis. Because I had an identity crisis in the fact that I attribute everything that I am to everything I've been through. But I'm more than my was, and I'm not my was. And the things that happened was to shape me, not to become a part of my character. And we're going to get deeper into that, because what so many people have done is they have made their pain, suffering, experiences, bad issues, heartbreak, all the horrific things that traumatize them and hurt them, they have allowed that to become a part of their character to a point that they eat, live, and breathe negativity, or they eat, breathe, and live their struggles to the point where they have no identity outside of that. There are some people that he hit me with that blew me away that don't want their problem solved, because they have built their ministry around it. They get all the attention around what they're going through, what they've been through, what happened to them. And they feel if they get healed or everything get worked out, who are they? And unfortunately, those are the same people who look for problems when they don't have them. We're going to get into that. Let me first talk about giving too much reference to what you've been through opposed to who God made you to be. That you are who you are in spite of what you've been through. One of the things that made me break down in tears at Dr. Thomas' session with me was that I have been so engulfed in situations in my life that outside of my experiences, outside of my heartbreak, outside of my disagreements, outside of bad relationships, outside of dysfunction, I had absolutely no identity. Now, of course, that identity is found in God, but the worst thing you can be is a gifted person anointed by God with all these gifts with no personal identification card of who you are. Just who society made you. Just who the world said you had to be. And that right there broke me down because I could not give an analogy without giving a reference to what happened. Because, and then we do it because we want to make sure that we're not getting a repeat of what we had bad in our life. We ask the question and we find out somebody's past, which is a good thing to do. Let me just say that, because you don't want to get with somebody that's terrible, horrible, or a serial killer. So I get that. But a lot of times we don't use godly discernment and we don't see people the way they should be, the way God created them. That's why my next show, my first show in March, you don't want to miss that. I'm talking about transactional relationships. We have forgotten how to serve. We have forgotten how to love, and everything is just transactional. I'll do for you if you do for me. You do for me because I do for you. We have forgotten that unconditional love is no longer a factor in today's relationships, love, because people are only doing what they do to get something. Now, you have good people. I happen to be one of them that will bless somebody just to bless them. And it's still good people who believe in serving and loving. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the majority of the people nowadays are transactional. But one of the things that blew me away was giving too much reference points to where I've been. And this is done on a regular basis because every time you go on a date, every time you talk to somebody, every time you get to know somebody, most times they want to know where you've been. I'm drinking orange juice. I got to drink healthy food. And you look at that, you always want to say, I was made by the struggle. When you were made by God, but you survived the struggle. And the reason why that is important is you will be able to see a person for their spirit, their character, and you won't be so much judgmental, because these things that happens in this world are distractions to keep us from knowing who we are in Christ, knowing our godly selves. Is to keep us in the mind frame of we have to be what the world wants us to be, and it becomes a part of our character. I made it in spite of what I've been through. I am who God made me, not what the world tried to break me with, take from me, or hurt me with. I am not that. So I don't want to give reference to that or make it like I'm trauma bonded. That's the basis of trauma bonding. I want you to know what I've been through. Now, why is that important? Because that's where we find our validation, because we never got it in it. So if we talk about where we've been at, that is a place of validation for a lot of people. A lot of people never got over it, and it's never in their heart, because people say, well, I'm over it and I moved from it. No, you're not if you keep talking about it. And the reason why you're talking about it, because when you were in it, nobody heard your feelings. Nobody cared. Nobody lended a help a hand. And you needed validation because you didn't understand why a person would treat you this way. You didn't understand why nobody would reach out and help you. You didn't understand why God would allow this. You didn't understand. So you keep talking about it for validation. And you're reliving it. Because everything you reference, you relive the information. So if you keep talking about where you come from, what you've been through, then what happens is somebody that you meet that want to go in the future with you, they can't go into the future with you unless you first take them into your past. Woo! Engineer, they ain't ready for this today, is it? Y'all need to like, love, and share this video because this helped me out. And so then we wonder why our relationships are so backwards or are filled with the same things, because we have infiltrated our relationships with demonic forces by giving references to what God has already forgiven us from or moved us from, because we still want that human validation. When God called you, you are automatically validated. And you are ready for that position. You are where you're supposed to be at. You are ready. And many people think that they're not ready because of what they've been through. See, David was not king yet, but he was ready for Goliath. He was ready. Many people looked at David like, wait a minute, you gonna go up against him? You don't look like you're ready. But David had already destroyed and killed worse things than Goliath. He wasn't worried about Goliath because he knew how strong God was. And once we know who we are in God and give reference to God and ask the Holy Spirit to lead us in all truth, then we don't have to worry about the situation. We can be like David and don't worry about how strong Goliath is. Don't worry about how big Goliath is. We already have victory because God already gave us victory, so we won't reference that. And every time we reference where we've been at, we give it power. Every time we reference what that man or that woman did to us, we give them power. They are living rent-free in our mind while they're living their life and they gave you a second thought, but you're going over and over and over again. How do I know? Because it wasn't until therapy that I seen that for myself. You know, I want to tell you what I survived. Okay, I tell you my testimony, but the difference in rehashing what you live in a testimony is that you're rehashing what you live for sympathy, intention, and self-validation. But if I'm giving you a testimony, it's all to glorify God. That is the biggest difference that many people don't see. They don't get that. I want you to know I've been through something. Okay, good. I want you to know that God brought you through something. It's all in the way you look at it. And when you look at it like that, you understand that God needs the glory, not your situation. You know, I'm from the south side of Chicago. It don't make sense if I'm from the north side of Chicago, west side, east side. I'm still anointed by God. I don't care if I'm in a big church or I'm in a small church. I'm still anointed by God. You know, it doesn't make a difference. Where I am, it doesn't change my anointing. Watch this. One of the things that we also talked about was changing my position in my issues by correcting my position and participation in my failures. This part hit me because everything you failed at, you had a part in it and you had participation in it. Every fight, every misunderstanding, every loss, you had a position in that. Now, Dr. Thomas wanted me to look at it like, I don't want you to look at the failure and worry about the failure, but I want to look at your position in the failure and correct your position in the failure so that you won't repeat the failure. Because I have to correct my position. There are church relationships whereas I was doing God's work, and because I didn't like how somebody said something to me, I reacted badly. And Dr. Thomas said something to me. He said, Corey, you were in the wrong, because if you're doing God's work, What somebody say, how they say it shouldn't matter, because that's not important and foremost. And so there are places that I should be doing ministry at, that I should be working at, and people that I should be working with that I can't, because I got offended by what they said. And what happened, I responded out of my emotions in a bad way. Why? Because I forgot who I am in Christ, because my identity was in my issues and not in God. So when we look at our position, a friend of mine said, and I prayed that God give her overtime back, but a friend of mine said to me, Corey, I was talking about paying off my house, and I was talking about doing some major things. So I'm working all this overtime. And I was saying this in a room full of people. One of them was my supervisor. And he heard that, jealous of me, took away my overtime. Now, he was wrong for doing that, but you was wrong for telling people your business. Some of the greatest work is done in silence. But the enemy is not omnipresent, omniscient. They go by what you say. The enemy has studied you your entire life, and they send attacks on you based on your reaction, what you've said, and what you've done in the past. They trap you through your habituality. So if you had to change your position and never said nothing, then they would have never known nothing, and you would have still been making money. Now, I told her that God is going to bless her to get it back. But I told her, why don't you be quiet? She can't do that. She needs to always be who she is everywhere, and that is not what you're supposed to be. Even Jesus said when he was being persecuted, my kingdom is not of this world. I can summon 10,000 angels. But what happened? He allowed man to crucify him. So you got to look at it like sometimes it's good to speak and sometimes it's not. But if you speak prematurely, you give the enemy the information they need, especially in monitoring spirits, to stop you. So sometimes you got to learn how to be quiet. You have to change your position. I'm one of the most friendliest people at work, but I got into a situation where a person lied on me. Even though none came out of it, I don't say much now. I don't say my business. I come in there, my job, I come in and do my job. My job is coming in and make money, man, my business. And people can see the change in me because everything happened. Even in relationships, I wasn't in a position to be the best I could be, and I wasn't able to put people in a position that they could be the best they could be, or they weren't in the best position to be the best they can be. So I have to correct me, and that's why I put so much time in correcting me, or working on my weight, working on my mental health, studying the Bible, working on spirits, because I understand if I change my position and how I approach, deal with, speak, interact, it changes the situation. I didn't realize through the therapy session and changing my position and correcting my position and participation in my failures, how many great opportunities I squandered because I was reacting in my emotions, because my reference to who I was went back to what I've been through, what I experienced, and I reacted from that because that was my origin and my roots, opposed to God being in and drawing people with love and kindness. I want you to think about your life. When we think about successful people, he said, we always want to know what the successful person did. Like they didn't make it off of a series of mistakes and things. What the part of that many people don't talk about when it comes to successful people is what they don't do. I want you to think about it. Everybody want to know what successful people do, but nobody wants to know what they don't do. There was a video that hit me hard, and I shared it on my page, and I shared it with some of my friends. This video said, in order for you to be successful, you have to be in an environment that allows you to be successful in and allows your gifts to be seen. You have to put yourself in a position for what's inside you is requested. Many people settle down, or they settle in a position that's too small for them, that nobody wants to hear. They're in a position where they cannot do what God says do. And you have to put yourself in that position. You know, you can't be in an environment where you competing with 50 people trying to do the thing that God wants you to do. That's not the environment. You have to be in an environment where what you have, what's inside you, has the ability to shine. You have to change your position. And the things that has to come out of you, that God put in you, they will not come out in the wrong environment around the wrong people. You have to be in an environment where you can be you, and what you have inside you is able to come out, or is requested to come out. You know, I can speak and preach anywhere, but it is more requested in church, because people need a word everywhere. But it's easier for me to do it in church. Why? Because the environment needs or requires what God put in me to come out. So when we look at our position, there are a lot of relationships whereas all I had to do was something different, that I could have loved differently. I could have spoke differently, you know, but what happened was I met a person from where they've been at, and I created a stalemate from where I've been at. So you had two people who didn't want to change their position. And many people don't want to move from a point. They want to move, they don't want to move from a point. They want to make a point. And they don't want to get off that position no matter what it costs them. I've made more positions and lost more making positions, making points. And it made me really look at that I could have done something different had I changed my position. I would probably still be married and still be happy had I changed my position. I had to put myself in a position for happiness. You know, so right now, God has shown me through prophecy, through dreams, through visions, on what he's taking me and giving me. So now, in order for me to not mess that up, I have to put myself in a position to handle it. I know God is going to give me his strength, his wisdom, his vision, but I have a job too. I still have to take a step, and I still have to study the word day and night. I still got to get myself in shape. That's why I go to the weight loss doctor now, and working out. My whole eating, everything has changed. I got to get myself mentally prepared for what God has for me. And that's why I'm learning a lot in these sessions, because I have to put in the work. I have to change my position. We have gotten to the point where everybody wants to be gifted something, overnight, microwavable success, or they want somebody to give them something. Many of people have forgotten what it takes for hard work, the years of passion, hard work, dedication. People have forgotten that. They have forgotten that. But everybody wants to give me what you can give me right away. Nobody wants the conventional oven methods. Nobody wants to take the time and watch it cook slow and watch it cook. Everybody wants it right away. I want you to truly think about that. I want you to get that. When you think about all the things that we could have done differently, what's my position? You know, and unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to forgive. They don't want to give up or forgive somebody because they don't want to change that position of what has transpired, because again, changing that position will change the outcome, and some people want to keep being mad at people. I want you to think about that in your life. I want you to look back in your life, look at some of the people you lost in your life, look at some of the relationships, look at some of the monetary things that you've been blessed, look at some of the business ideas, look at some of the things in life you could have went a different direction in and would have changed everything. That you could change your position in a lot of things. Many people that want to come back in my life, or they want to access to me again, they want me to change my position back to the position that benefited them. You know, a lot of times, you know, when we think about people, they look at good people and they treat them any kind of way. You know, a lot of times they don't talk to them the way they talk to them. They don't love them the way they love them. They don't bless them the way they can bless them. And then when they lose them and watch them doing good on somebody else's boat or show, then they're looking like, I could have done differently. A lot of times people don't think they can lose their blessing, and they don't change their position in it. There are people right now that won't change their position in my life, and they're going to get left behind, because this is your opportunity to do something different. This is your opportunity to say something different, because I will not take you in a manner that is no growth in it, that's no betterment, that we're not building something. I won't take anybody that way. But if you change what you do, but many people don't. Because why would they change it? Because they have to prove a point. And many times proving a point has left people at a point where they don't have anything. Change the position. I now see how God brought me through, but I now see how different my life would have been and will be now, because I changed my positions. I didn't look at what somebody did to me, but I looked at what I did because they did to me, what they did to me. I don't look at no more where I was, because had I been obedient to God and know who I was in God, I would have dealt with it differently. That's why when people ask me questions on what I would do, I don't answer questions like that, because I can't tell you what I would do, because what I've done got me what I am and what I had. But if I did it God's way, I would be much further. And God wanted me to understand in this position that I have to stop being the weapon formed against myself that's stopping me from prospering. Ooh. Do you know you can be the weapon formed against yourself that's stopping you from prospering? I want you to really understand that if you change your position, because at work right now, I love work. I'm not stressed. I'm not worried about anything, because I say nothing. I mind my business. I stay away from people. I have nothing to say. And one of the therapy sessions, like I told a friend of mine, was he said that because you have to change positions to give somebody advice, never give voluntary advice. They ask you what you think. You say, are you ready for the truth? You know, therefore, if you get mad at what I say to you, you ask me. I didn't ask you. That most of my fights have been places where I have jumped in that I had nothing to do and given my advice or felt like I have a right to say something. Well, I don't. And that was unnecessary drama that was brought to my life because I volunteered my help. That many times I spoke on previous shows on how I recovered from being a people pleaser person. Why? Is because I felt like I had to do everything, or I can fix everything, or I can change everything. And a lot of times people would tell me their problems subconsciously, and I would get involved. And then what ended up happening was that I've given all, I'm at deficit, and then I'm looking for them and they to help me, or to appreciate it, or and they looking at me like, wait a minute, I never asked you, you offered. And that's how many people get caught up, because people are playing, they call it subconsciously manipulation, where they're manipulating you through your subconscious. Why? Because they're hoping your heart, I'll be obligated to something that they never asked you. They just gave you the information. If you don't want nothing I have, or you don't want my help, why do you keep telling me your bad information? That's one thing I don't do, get into a relationship with somebody. If you really care about me and you really want to be with me, you need to be warm and nice. And you need to make somebody want to do something. But if all you got for me is how bad your life is, how bad your problems is, how bad things are going, and what you need, then I know right then and there you're subconsciously manipulating me, and I don't have anything to do with you. I'm a person like you. I want somebody to tell me something good like you. I want somebody to help me like you. So why in the world would I have to be in that position? Because one thing about love, growth, and development is you don't put a person in a bad situation. What's your position? If I'm in a position where I'm upset, I got unhealed pain, and I'm walking around with all these bills and all this stuff, and then I want to be with you in your life, that becomes your problem. I'm in a position where I'm putting you in a worse position. I won't allow people to put me in worse positions. It won't happen. So that is one of the things that I look at when it comes to my life now, what position I'm in. So when somebody says something to me, that's just like one of the greatest breakthroughs, and you're going to love this. One of the things that Dr. Thomas did for me, he changed my position on how I receive certain information. And one particular thing that always burned me up when somebody bring up my past. That part always just burned me to my noodles, that he brought up my past. Why do you have to bring up where I've been at? He said, when people say what you used to be, what you used to do, where you used to hang, how you used to talk, all the bad things that they say you used to do, you should say thank you. Thank you for reminding me on how far I've grown. Thank you for reminding me that I am not my was. Thank you for showing me that God really changed me. Thank you for blessing me in that manner. See, it's how you receive it. Because when you change and other people haven't, they have to bring you back to a place where they still at, or that's familiar to them. Anybody that's got to make a point to me now by something I used to do haven't moved. And what happens is when they bring up your past, it just reveals to you that they're right there. They never moved. And they can't deal with your movement. So they have to bring you down to a place where in their retrospect or introspect, they're saying, I can talk to you eye to eye. Really, you can't. Basically, you saying to me is that I can't climb up there to talk to you. So I got to bring you down here to talk to me. And that's why they make points with your past. There are a lot of people, he said, there are people that's going to stop talking to me because they can't get the conflict out of me no more. And the way that people try to get the conflict out of you, they always say, well, you just like the last time, or just like you remember you used to do it. You know why they have to do that? It's because they're not standing on nothing now. They have nothing tangible or great in their hands to deal with the you now, the work you put in, who God made you, what God bought you from. The things that God has opened up, they can't deal with that. So they have to bring you back to a place where there's familiarity, because right now where you've moved it, there's no familiarity. So you have to change your position, because every bad thing I participated. When somebody broke my heart, I invited them in. When somebody took advantage of me, I offered them to take advantage of me. I participated in that. And when you participate in what destroys you, you are the weapon formed against you that stops you from prospering. Now, let's talk about who are you outside of your struggle, your identity crisis. The first thing you have to do is remove your pain from your character and not allowing your actions to shape and fuel your interactions with people in all your relationships. I'm going to say that again. This one is so powerful, because many people don't understand that situations and pain that you haven't dealt with becomes your character. And you get this notion in your mind, that's just the way I am. No, that's not just the way you are. And that's not how God created you. That's what the world said you had to be. And you got tired of fighting the world, so you accepted what the world said you was, and you made it a part of your character. So what happens is, every time somebody interact with you, your character that you didn't let go was your pain. Because one of the things that he said that blew me away, he said that if you spend a long time with your pain will reveal to you that it's really not pain, it's grief. It's grief that you didn't do anything with. So when you remove your pain from your character, that's what happens when you heal. Because when your pain is your character, you look for exactly what you've been with. You look for exactly what hurts you. You look for conflict and study resolution. My show is called The Solutions, because I want to offer to people solutions to their problems, not a place where they just make it through their problems. So when you remove pain from your character, your actions will not be shaped and fueled by negativity. You will be able to see people, situations, and see yourself in God the way you're supposed to be. Many people see their mates through their moms or their dad's eyes. Many people see what's in front of them according to where they've been at. You know, not knowing your head is not ambidextrous, where you can see front and back. But many people more worried about going back that they don't go forward. So you got to understand that what you don't let go becomes your character. That every person that started drinking didn't come out the womb drinking. Or every person that started using drugs didn't come out the womb using drugs. They weren't born wanting drugs. Or everybody you see who speak negative of always hurt, they didn't start off that way. That's why when I look at Noah, and everybody talked about Noah, how Noah, when God let him out the ark after the flood, he had a drink. That Noah drunk. He drank. But then people want to judge Noah, but just imagine Noah building an ark for over 100 years, and then God closed the door, and you got to listen to millions of people drown. You got to listen to the trauma of watching or listening to millions of people drown Could you imagine how that would have on your psyche? Could you imagine how that would make you feel? I would have a drink, probably worse. You know, could you imagine? I've seen last rites where somebody passed, where I prayed and give their last rites and they passed. It's like boom. Could you imagine hearing all those people banging on that arch trying to get in, but God shut the door and you got to listen to them scream and drown? But people gonna say Lord was accused of drunkenness. I bet you'll have a drink too. Because a lot of times when we look at what happened, pain is in our character because something or somebody in this world hurt us, which turned us to do things. That's why when I say my testimony, I almost committed suicide. And if it wasn't for God saving me, I wouldn't be here. But you look at that, most people say, oh man, you got it together. You're such a great, because you don't know what somebody's gone through. You just see them for where they are. You don't know. Pain, if it's not dealt with, is grief turned into your character. So you will open your mouth with negativity. You will always look for plan B and C and stand loyal to what God said was plan A. You will always come to church looking for a word. People have gone prophecy crazy. Prophet, 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 prophet. And study reading the greatest prophecy ever told to man, which is the Holy Bible. But we have gotten to a point where we have allowed pain, trauma, past hurt to become our character. To the point we have made dysfunction normal. We have made hurting people okay. And we've been hurt so bad, and pain is such a part of our character that we don't even feel bad hurting people. There are people who will cheat on you that don't even feel bad cheating on you. There are people who will curse you out, don't even feel bad cursing you out. There are people who will take from you, steal from you, and don't even feel bad about doing it. That's because they are so caught up in who they are by their trauma and their pain. Who are you outside of your struggles and your pain? Are you willing to change your position from what you used to be or what the world says you have to be to who God says you have to be? I want you to think about this. You have to grow, and growing, you have to grow in your God purpose instead of getting out of situations, because no situation should affect your godly character. I want to say that again. You must grow, but you must grow in your God's purpose instead of getting out of situation, because no situation should affect your godly character. You know, many people praise God because of what they're going through or what they're dealing with or what they want to come out of and study praising God for being God. Ooh, that makes you think. Many people are fighting so hard to come out of a situation or defeat the trauma they experienced in life more so than getting to heaven. People talk about what they're going through more than they talk about Bible verses and how good God is and his son dying for us and who we are and the rapture and all the things to come. People are more important talking about growth in becoming great monetarily, doing positional wise, but they're not talking about God being who he is. God saving my life. God bringing me through. Instead, we got more reference for what he brought us through than him. That is something that many people do. First thing, let me tell you what God brought me out. Why don't you tell me about God first? Let me tell you what God is doing in my life. Let me tell me about God first. If you look at the Lord's Prayer, it says, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, which is holy. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. That said before, give us this day or anything else. The true acknowledgement of God. I'm not worried about eating. I'm not worried about, let me acknowledge you the right way. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. People don't see that. People want to talk about what the earth is doing. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this. Who you are in God, your godly character should be that way no matter what. Paul in the jail, facing death. He knew who Christ was. Elijah, Moses, no matter what was happening, they knew who God was. I want you to really understand this about godly character. Who God made you can be affected by situations, but it shouldn't change who you are. Peter got out of the boat and walked to Jesus, and he started to look at the storm, and he started to sink, and Jesus pulled him up. But Peter still got out of the boat and was walking on water. I want you to understand that Jesus saved him. Watch this. But he was still out on the water when he saved him. That means he got out. You cannot be in a place, and many times we are choosing people in our caterpillar stage, and then life changes for us. We're in our butterfly stage. See, we don't put ourselves in a position, and we don't look at the situation for godly purpose. The purpose of the caterpillar is to become a butterfly. But many people commit as a caterpillar, and then when they go into that stage where they're in the isolation period, while they grow their wings and grow into a butterfly, and then they become a butterfly, the other caterpillar's like, wait a minute, why are you leaving? Okay, I don't belong there no more. I'm not that anymore. I need to go and see the garden for what it is. I've seen it on the ground. Now I need to see it in the air. And one of the things that we look at is we have to find our God selves, but we can't find that in the world. We have to find that in God. Watch this. Some people have identity crisis outside of their problems and have created their whole life and character rooted in their problems, and they only have self-validation in their problems. And they seek out people to create more problems with. That's why jail is so bad, because you cannot move. You're locked up with your problems. Ooh, oh man, let me read that again. These are notes that I took in my therapy session, and I'm doing a show on these notes. It says some people have identity crisis outside of their problems, and they have created their whole life and character rooted in their problems, and only have self-validation in their problems. And if there were no problems, they would seek out people to create more problems with. That's why jail is so bad, because now you can't move and you're locked up with your problems. There are people who don't want to be healed. There are people who call people just to talk crazy, to get a response out of them, to create negativity so they can feel validation. There are some people are such hell raisers and love to create so much drama that if everything worked out for them, they will find a fault or find something. to do or find people to go back and forth. There are friends that I have now that they talk to me. They don't talk to me like they used to because I'm not the same person. But years ago, all I would do is go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, because they found a willing participant in the position of negativity, which allowed us to exchange negative views, which validated your problems because you needed that action. One of the worst things you can do is shut down a negative person, is not respond. You don't respond to that. Okay, yeah, you feel that way, good. Because the truth of the matter is they negative view, thoughts, and whatever they say doesn't change their position or change yours. If you're successful and everybody saying you're not or you don't mean nothing, don't. That's one thing that I had to learn about my anointing as a man of God. If nobody acknowledges, if nobody give me a chance, nobody works, then it don't change it. I just go somewhere else. Wherever I go, the favor of God goes with me. Just like Joseph, which is my middle name. It's going to go. But many people sit up and say, okay, you know what? I feel this way. No. They want the fight. And a lot of people believe if they didn't have the fight or their problems, they would be nobody. Because they need validation. Some people have used drugs. They have used alcohol. They have used stuff because they need to feel numb from the pain. And what happens is because their validation and character is rooted in their problems. Boy, that girl will cuss you out. Yeah. Because she's rooted in her issues, not rooted in God. Because once you're rooted in God, you understand that it's already done. It's already worked out. When it's rooted in anything else but God, you need validation from your problems. Many people do that. Many people look at that. Many people say to themselves, well, I need somebody strong. No, you don't. You need somebody to fight with. Or, you know what? I can lose my temper at times. Yeah, because you're rooted in your problems. There's always a root to everything you experience. And just like a tree that is unplanted, when you get down to the roots, it takes a long time and a lot of heavy equipment, a lot of heavy lifting, and a lot of heavy work to pull the roots of that tree out of the ground. Because what happens is if you just take the top of it and don't take the roots, then that tree will and can grow again. You have to get down to the roots. And so what happens is many people, they have not dealt with their past. There are some people that call me and tell me the same story like I haven't heard it. There are some people who are married still talking about their ex and what their ex did. There are some people who God has given them something and they don't appreciate it because what they have is rooted in their problems. And that is the biggest misconception or the biggest self-sabotage or the big self-deception is thinking you can move away from your inner problems. I don't care if you have a project mind and somebody gave you a mansion. What's going to happen is you're going to turn that project mind and with that project mind, you're going to turn that mansion into a big project because that's where your position is and that's where your root is. One of the things I'm learning in therapy is getting to the root. Okay, you do this. Why do you do that? Who you see do that? What made you do that? What made you do that? Why do 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 you do that? Why Many times we're in survival mode in a way that we speak, say, act a certain way because something happened to make us do that. And when something happened to make us do that, we have not deviated from that. Watch this. Don't be the problem formed against you that prospers. One of the hardest things for me to see in this therapy session and the ones before, that I have been the root of my problems. Nobody has defeated me. I have defeated myself by referencing what I've been through, being a part of my character and dealing with it in that manner, which got me the same results. I didn't understand that a healed me makes healed decisions, but a broken me makes broken decisions. I had to ask God forgiveness, and I was ashamed of myself because all this time I was the weapon formed against me that was prospering. That I was in ministries where somebody put me out to work and I got offended by something they said. Or I was in relationships whereas I didn't get what I thought I needed, and I didn't change the position to be able to put somebody in a position to give me what I needed. See, many of us are our own worst enemies. Many of us don't understand what we haven't let go as a part of our character, and it is stopping us from getting greater. Because God knows if he gave some of us what we've been praying for, what he has for us now in the wrong state of mind, it would not only kill us, but it would ruin generations. But many people don't get that because they're the weapon against themselves. Many people don't realize I've seen talent. I've seen musicians, players. I've seen great athletes didn't make it because they could not get themselves out of the way, and they became the weapon against them form that prospers. Many of us are caught up in what we believe. We are caught up in how we want to do something. We are caught up in what looks right for us. And the Bible said, lean not to your own understanding, because God knows what you don't know. And a lot of us have gotten in situations because we thought we knew more than God, or we wanted something. The devil, I want you to understand something about temptation. And many people or many leaders don't teach this about temptation. The devil don't tempt you with something you don't want. That there are hidden desires, or there are desires that the devil know you want, and he'll send the messenger to destroy you to look exactly like what you want. That's why you have to look at you got to have godly discernment with your godly character, because you got to make sure it's from God. One of the things God showed me about prophecy, like I said on another show, that prophecy has to be with biblical reference, bring me back to God, and with instructions. It can't be just like God gonna do this, God gonna do this. No, how is he gonna do that? What am I to do? What am I supposed to do? Where is the biblical reference? When I think about my life, I let people's thoughts counterproduct my efforts, whereas I became the weapon against myself form that's prosperous. And I had to understand, and that's why, as I talked about earlier, corrected my position and participation in my failure, because Failure can't happen in my life without my participation. It could be my methods of work. It could be my preparation. It could be my desire. It could be my hunger. But more importantly, it could be my faith. Whatever happened, I allowed myself to react. When I was almost 600 pounds, 500 some pounds, 98 pounds, before my gastric sleeve surgery in 2016, one of the things that one of the trainers that trained me in the weightlifting said to me, I'm going to be tough on you. And he was. He cracked all kinds of jokes. And the reason why he did that, because he said, I want you to understand that everything you ate, you had a chance not to eat. You had a chance to stop. Every situation. Even when you get into it, you had a chance to stop. And so now you have to pay the piper. And he said, just because you told the truth about yourself don't mean you don't have to deal with the consequences for the lies. You have to understand, just because you're telling the truth about yourself, you still got to deal with the consequences. So I had to deal with the point I'm fat. So I had to go put in the work in the gym. And I'm putting in the work now in the gym. I'm also weight loss thing. I'm putting in the work in the gym. Why? Because I have to deal with the consequences. I had to understand that what I do to me is just as it is potent or serious as what somebody else do to me. If I treat me like nothing, how am I going to expect somebody else to treat me better? I really want you to understand that and get that. I really want you to think about that and truly understand that. How can I look at somebody else and the level of respect that they give me, and they may disrespect me, but I'm disrespecting myself? See, somebody I talked to today said something I thought was very good. They said, I love myself and I treat myself well. I'm just starting to say that at 52. I'm just starting to say that I love myself and I'm starting to set myself well. He asked me, he said, can you see yourself and others for who God made them to be outside of their worldly experiences? And I said, that's very hard, because some of the worldly experiences that people have been through, they still in. So it's hard for me to give, if you're in a situation, I know you're not your situation, not your was, but I also have to be in a cautious to look at, do I want to get into somebody's consequences? I can see you the way God created you, but I do have to ask myself, do I want to get in your situation? Do I want to get in your consequences? Because one of the things that really burns me up is when somebody say to me, I'm doing something, I'm doing everything on my own. Well, you're doing everything that you got in on your own. When you meet somebody, they can help you, but you are the manager of your life, like I'm the manager of my life. So I can't make you responsible for all the things I got in before I met you. So I can't say I'm doing all this by myself. You know, most people value you because you can help them. And they like, well, I'm tired of doing all this by myself. Okay, well, you got into all that by yourself. Where is it that we can start where we can both be our godly selves and we can see each other for who God made us opposed to our worldly experiences? You know, because if you're under a lot of stress, guess what? Your conversation is going to be stressful. Your interaction with me is going to be stressful. I don't care how beautiful you are. I don't want to be in a relationship or anything like a relationship with somebody that's not warm, somebody that's not kind, that somebody that's not just want to dump. I don't want to be in something like that. I can't grow in that environment. I can't grow with a person like that. If I got to do everything just to put you in a position to be nice to me, that means I'm going to have to do that for the rest of my life. No, thank you. When you rent an apartment, you want to make sure that apartment is clean and ready to be lived in. If somebody invited you, I remember looking at an apartment that was dirty, roach infested, and it was horrible. And the landlord had the nerve to review or view that apartment. I said, you got to be kidding me. You want to show me an apartment with dirt, junk on the floor? You want to show me an apartment where you see these roaches running all around the apartment, stank? But you want to show me that? One of the things that he said to me is when you can see yourself and another person who God made each other, then you can move to what God has for you. Many times conversations is people who want to break in for validation. Excuse me. When I said something to Dr. Thomas, I said, Dr. Thomas, I haven't had a decent conversation with anyone in my circle in a long time. Most of them just want to jump in and talk. I know some people that want to keep talking. They don't want to listen, period. All they want to do is talk. And he said the reason why is because they're rooted in their problems. They need validation. Many people have not learned the art of just having a conversation where you say something, I say something. It's like everybody want to dominate. I want you to think about the blind man and Jesus. Jesus said we would do exceedingly abundantly what he did. But I want you to think about when it comes to seeing yourself, your godly self, because the devil's biggest fear is that we will see who we are in God. And that's the problem. When there was a blind man and Jesus led him out, and Jesus put spit and mud on his eyes, and he told him to open his eyes, and he said, I see men and women that look like trees moving around. And I see a rock. Now, I want you to think about what happened, that God showed him how he sees him. I see men and women like trees. And see, it is so important that you see yourself the way God sees you in any situation. And then God washed his eyes and he had normal sight. But God wanted to show him who you are, how I look at you. That how you see yourself matters. How you see yourself in me matters. How you see other people. And many people are looking at people through the lenses of their hurt or through the character of their hurt, or they're looking at it from a hurt position. One of the things that I looked at that hit me the hardest in therapy session was when I looked at the same people in my life from a healed position, I realized I lost some good people. Because hurt people can't see valuable people. And hurt people can only see valuable people and valuable people gone. They can't see it immediately because they're too busy hurt. And their validation comes from their hurt, so they don't see it. And they only see it when it's with somebody else. You know? And you can't say that it doesn't hurt when you see somebody who you knew you loved and you cared about happy with somebody else. Most people won't admit that. That you know that you and this person should have been good. Y'all should have been happy. Y'all should have been great. But you guys couldn't get it together because you couldn't let go of what you're dealing with. Because many people, watch this, won't let go of what already let go of them. Every time you reference what you've been through, you won't let go what has already let go of you. I guarantee you those people that you're talking about, you're thinking about, you're going over it and over again, they ain't gave you a second thought. He said many people won't let go of their past because they have no future or present identity. Many people, when you look at that, how they see themselves, they honestly believe that God gave them a ministry birthed out of pain and not him. They give more praise to their situation or to the devil than they do God. You know, girl, let me tell you what happened to me. Dude, let me tell you what I've been through. Instead of, girl, look what God brought me through. Look what he did. Hey, bro, check out how God blessed me. The blind man saw trees moving. And tree is strong, planted, strong. But the trees were moving, men and women. How do you see yourself? I look at my life differently now because I truly understand how much I've worked against myself. I truly understand what I could have done differently. I truly understand now, you know, when you look at situations, whereas I wanted to lead something, but I realized I can work in it and then eventually be the leader anyway. Many people don't get the fact that what God has for you is for you, but you can still work. I enjoy working in church. I don't have to be the pastor. I don't have to be the leader. I know God made me one. I know God has gifted me to ministry, but I don't have to be that person. I'm okay with mopping the floors. I'm okay with cleaning the place. I'm okay with praying. I'm okay with teaching Sunday school. I'm not trying to, I just want to work. But I've understood that if I see myself the way God, I don't let little stuff get to me. Who are you outside of your worldly experiences? You remember when you were a kid, you had so many dreams, so many admirations. You wanted to be so many great things, and you couldn't. You know, you could have been. But for some reason, you did. When I was in school, they used to always ask us, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? And all the things that I said, I never became any of them. And it was not because I didn't have the ability to. It's because I allowed the world to tell me I couldn't be. When I was writing down these notes, and I have a lot more notes, I'm sharing this because I'm praying it's blessing somebody. I'm praying it's helping somebody because we are not our problems. You know, because people will address you by that. Oh, here come her. She come to bed. Oh, man. Or here he come. You know, he always got something negative to say. And there are people that probably need our help that don't get our help because we have already deemed them what they already do. There are some people, some guys, some friends of mine, and they've been blowing up my phone, and I've been calling them back because I know they're going to want to sit on the phone for hours and talk negative thoughts, and I don't want to hear that. Who are you outside of that? Who are you outside of what you went through? There was a friend of mine that I couldn't see who she was until after therapy. Because I'm putting in the work because I understand I can't stay where I'm at. But I also understand that God made me more than what I am, and that I will not give the world my participation in my failure by doing opposite of what God wants me to do, or not put in the work to do what needs to be done. Faith without works is dead. So if I'm not putting in the work, I still have to hit the gym. But if you're not going to lose weight and put in the work, then what happens? The alternative, it ain't going to fall off you overnight. It takes work. I want you to understand that godly identity allows us to walk in our godly power. I really want to talk about that. The reason why it's so important that we find our godly identity in God is because we are joint heirs to Christ. We are sons of the Most High God. The same power in Christ is in us. He said we would do exceedingly abundantly. The demons and devils, they don't have the power that they can't do nothing without our participation, our permission. They can't, and far as what they do to us, they have to get God's permission. When you think about Job, God already knew what he put in Job. The devil did. And the devil had to get permission. And he told him what he could do. And what happened? He blessed Job with double. And we have to understand is once we find our godly identity, we understand. We get it. We make a difference. Many times I have allowed people to dumb down who I am because I didn't want to make them feel inferior or feel, guilty or feel bad, because there's always jealousy. And a lot of times people can see on you what's on you more than you can see what's on you. So there's always people looking at you in an adverse way, looking at you because they want to do what you do and you do it easily. So I've learned that if I walk in my godly authority, I don't care if it's 2 people, 2,000 people. I don't care if it's a very small church. I don't care if it's a big church. I don't care if it's on the street. I am still the same man of God, no matter what. So for me, I've learned my God identity because I'm not just a child of God, but I'm called by God. I'm sent by God. And I'm not ashamed to say that. You have many people who feel like if you're not over a church, you're not a pastor. But scripture don't say that. Many people, who are called our pastors or think they're pastors, they made pastors by archbishops. That's not a pastor. It takes an apostle to make a pastor. I was made a pastor by an apostle. A lot of times people look at you and they look at you in that way, but it doesn't make a difference if I'm over a church or I'm under a church. If I'm working with a church, if I'm working in the street, I am still who God sent, and God is going to bear witness to what he sent. That position doesn't change. The place may change, but the position don't change. And that's why people self-deceive themselves by thinking you can move away. They're going to move to Texas. They're going to move to Atlanta. They go all these places to move to, thinking that life is going to be better. Life is still better, but it's still the same person. Because if you know your godly self, it doesn't matter where you go, the anointing goes. It doesn't matter where you serve, the anointing serves. It doesn't matter who you with. You're going to be a good person because God blessed you to be that person. Most people say, well, I got a certain standard. No, I got one standard. You love God as your Lord and Savior, and you serve God. That's all I got. But we don't look at it that way because we don't know who we are, because we have created our identity, our walk, our talk, our actions, our daily living, or what we've been. And that's why we always give references to it. How you doing today? I'm making it. No, I'm better than making it. I'm alive. I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. Or you know what? How's things going? It's going okay. No, it's going better than okay. Because if it ain't going better than okay, then what? I want you to really understand that you got to know who you are. I want you to remember this. Fear is a reaction and courage is a decision. Many times in life, fear is a reaction. I wonder if they're going to like what I got on. I wonder if they're going to like my sermon. I wonder if they're going to like my song. I wonder when I meet her, is she going to like me? Or is he going to like me? I wonder if we're going to be able to hit it off. I wonder if I'm going to get this job. I wonder if I'm going to ever be married. I wonder if I'm going to ever start this business. I wonder if fear is a reaction and courage is a decision. I don't go into rooms like I'm grateful to be there. I go in there like I belong because God sent me. I go into places knowing I'm gifted to do what I do. I'm working on things now with my multimedia person and the owner of this radio station. We're going to work on some things where I am going to expand my ability to talk and interact with people. But this is what I do. This is a decision that I have the courage to make the decision because I like to talk. I like to reach people. I like to bless people. I like to grow. And I understand that this is what I was equipped to and blessed to do. And I'm doing it. I'm not afraid of who don't like me on the radio. I'm not afraid if I'm not far as some of the greats on the radio yet. But I believe that when I'm behind this microphone, this radio, that I cannot be touched. I can talk for 2 hours straight without playing the music, without radio, without using the washroom, without any of that. Because this is a gift of mine that God has given me that I'm able to do. So I don't worry about whether I'm going to be good or not. I don't worry about whether I'm going to be blessed or not. I don't worry about who gonna open the door anymore. Because that was the whole thing I used to worry about. Well, I wonder if this person gonna give me a chance. No, person doesn't have to give me a chance. One of the things that I've always been blessed with is radio. When I first started in radio, I had 3 shows, 3 2-hour shows a week. And I did a little TV, Can 19 TV on, where it was put on there. But I was doing that consistently. And many times I had guests, but many times I didn't. Some of the people say, man, I've never seen somebody that can sit and talk for 2 hours and it's effortless to them. That's because this is the gift I'm given. I put in the work with studying because I have to find me in God. I have to find me outside of my struggles. I have to change my position. I have to understand that greatness is work for. I have to understand that I cannot allow anything that is outside of God in my character. Now, am I going to be right? No, I mess up. I sin every day. I do some stupid stuff. I know I do. But I'm human. And I know God has a plan. He always has a plan. But I also understand that this world did not make me. This world did not shape me. God created me. And even though the world tried to break me, take from me, all it did was make me into a better person. I am who God made me to be. I am not my was. And one of the things that Dr. Thomas told me was, it is very hard to see yourself in the mirror. It is very hard to look in the mirror and look at the reason why you're in the place you've been in. It is really hard when you say to yourself that I am going to let stuff go and you don't. It is very hard to say that I am the weapon against myself formed that is hurting me. It's hard. I cried. Because I didn't know Corey Wright outside of problems. It's easier to blame somebody else for what they've been through. I've read where there are people who had horrific traumas when they were younger, now multimillionaires doing great things because they changed their position. Am I the weapon against myself that's stopping me from prospering? One of the main things that I used to do was run from situations that I didn't want to change me to be in. And what I mean by that, in the positive and in the negative, because in the positive, if somebody's trying to change me into something that God didn't create me to be, I have to leave. But then in the negative sense, that there were opportunities that I could have had if I would have changed what I did, how I did it, and how I seen it. There are a lot of people that mean well, but hell is paved with people who mean well, have good intentions, but evil ways. What is it about you that has you in the same place you've been in for years? Was it about you that keeps you from going? And sometimes it's just being quiet. God had to anoint me to keep my mouth closed about the things that's going on in my life. God had to anoint me to understand that I am responsible for my life and the way I live it. What is it about me that I had to change? I'm at peace right now because I realize that if I know who I am in God, I don't have to beg when I pray. Many people are begging because they don't know who they are in the kingdom authority and declaring it. Many people are like, God, give me this, God, give me that. God, in the name of Jesus, I am this. God, I have this. God, I have this business. God, I am this successful radio person. I have this book published. I am doing what you call me to do. I am that. But many people beg because they're asking from a distance. They're asking from a distance because they are too busy trying to get out of something and study to get into God's purpose. God will never give you vision without provision. And God will never take you somewhere he's not there. He already knows what you need. And the devil plays on your pain that you have in your character and make it fuel your interactions. That's the reason why people are mad and short with you. There are people are angry with you because you won't help them out of situations they got themselves in. But they're mad at you. There are people who are looking at you like you're the bad guy because you're working on self-preservation. This therapy journey, especially this 2025, even to now, blessed me so much because when I did 3.5 years, years ago, I thought I was done. I thought I was where I was. But it wasn't until last year that I didn't realize how broken, how much I needed it. Because when you're in a position where everybody wants something from you and you're in a position of nothing but takers, and everybody is cool with you as long as you give them what they want from you, then when you change and you start to build yourself up and you start to do things, now you're the enemy. But you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with people looking at you any kind of way because their negativity and their bad feelings doesn't stop who you are, what you are, and what you will become. I asked a friend of mine when they start telling me about that negativity, and I said that I don't want to hear that. And they said, well, I remember you used to do this. Okay. You had to compare me. You had to bring up where I was because that's where you still are to make a point. I thank you for reminding me that I'm better. But if you tell me off because I don't want to hear what you have to say, how does that change your position? Because when you hang up from me, I'm still blessed. When you hang up from me, you're still miserable going through stuff. That's why I want you to understand some of y'all fights are holding the hand of God up. Because he doesn't want to give you something to destroy you. And some of y'all are making points at the detriment of yourself. That was my biggest thing right there. That was the greatest delivery one of the greatest deliveries I've gotten in therapy, was to understand how people use your past. That's why they keep bringing it up. You used to do this. You used to say that, or me, I had to understand the breakdown in that. Dr. Thomas asked me a question when somebody said, not just it's okay, look at it as you're not what you used to be or you're a different person. He said, look at it that way. But I want to ask you this question. Whenever you got into a problem with somebody, what was the root of that problem? That's when my giving stopped. When people can't get what they want from you, you become the enemy. And that's why you have to be okay with being the enemy, because you don't look at yourself the way the world looks at you. I am a servant of God. I am called by God. I am blessed, highly favored. God is doing some extraordinary things. Everything I look at now doing is outside of where I've been. I love my family. I love my mom. I love my kids. And when I get married, when God brings that right person, I'm going to love her as my wife. But one of the things that I've learned is my family, my kids, they are my responsibility. My mother is, my kids are. So I never, and that's, you never worry about what you have to do. But everything now I look at as what God wants me to do. And I don't go into situations with any preconceived notions, because one of the biggest heartbreaks, because he asked me when I changed positions, what are the 3 things in my life that has always contributed to my failing? And I got a few more minutes. I want to really get this. One of the things that always contributed to my failing was I always expected me from me. A lot of times when we change our positions, we look at people for their potential, and we get mad at them for not being able to deliver. So we always want a me and me. That was one of the biggest things, because I always expected, if I do for you, you would do for me, and we'd do for each other. I always felt like that I can love somebody out of their situation that they've been in for years, or I can love somebody out of their thinking, or I can bless somebody out of their situation, and they'll get out of their situation, stay out of their position, awation, and study. Doing that, they'll bring me into their situation. But see, then I thought that, but that wasn't the case. And so I had to realize, in order for me to never be disappointed in a person, I have to accept them for being them and not expect me from them. Understand that I may do this or go out of my way or bless somebody, but they're not going to do that. And I have to be okay with that, meaning I cannot give them something that I need for myself. That's my number 2, always trying to save people. And what has always got me in trouble is trying to save people what I need. But then, I'm offering you something that I need, and I got mad at you for taking it. You didn't offer that. You didn't ask, I offered. So I understand that some things in life that people do, they're going to have to face the consequences of that. I can't stop that. I can't stop that. And then my third, I think I got about 15 minutes. My third is one of the main things that that really, really, really hit me hard, that I had to get was what relationships I'm in when it's time for me to do great things. One of the things that always stop me from doing great things is bad relationships. That I've always got into bad relationships with people who need me. I've always got to relationships with deficits. You know what I mean? And a lot of times I've chosen people when I was in a better position that wouldn't have gave me a chance if I was in a worse position. Because people can see where you're going or your potential quick. And since a lot of things are transactional, it made me really understand that, hey, these are the things that I contributed in my failure. Positions have to change. So when I approach people, talk to people, interact with people, I'm not expecting nothing more from you than you expected from me. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna offer anything to you. Like I said earlier, this year you gotta be direct. I ain't offering nothing. You want my help? Say it. Hey, I need you to do this. Fine. I'll do that if I can, if it's okay. But other than that, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not offering. Two, I can't save everybody. You're the manager of your life. I can only add to what you have, but I can't take a deficit being with you. If you're doing everything on your own, as you say, it's because you created that own, not me. I will not pay for another deficit that is not mine or I didn't help you get into. That's just me. That's just me. Why am I doing that? Because I have to grow. I cannot smother myself, drown myself, belittle myself, bring myself down just so I can help somebody in a situation that they were in. And third, I watch my relationships. I'm not in a relationship because one of the things that I understand is I do greater work by myself. But if I'm not in something with somebody that can grow to something greater, then I don't want to be in it. I don't want to get into a situation where I'm wallowing with you and you don't want to do no work. You know what I mean? One of the things I will never do is to get myself in another relationship where I go backwards. I will never be in a relationship whereas you give me what you think I want because that's what you want to give me. You can keep that. Because what people don't see is the hard work behind the scenes. They don't see that. They have no clue of that. They're just looking at what it is they see. So you have to ask yourself, who are you outside of your problems and your struggles? And are you going to change your position in your issues? Are you going to change your position? Are you going to do something different? When you got a chance to cuss that person out, are you going to cuss them out? Are you going to pray for them? There are many times that I've been blessed that I had the opportunity to hit somebody, that I had the opportunity to knock somebody out who did me wrong, that they set me up, whereas they needed my help, and I could have left them hanging like they left me hanging or did them wrong, and I didn't. Matter of fact, I blessed them because I realized that I had to do something different. And it may not change the outcome with me and that person, but it changed the outcome. We were not created to be dictated or shaped by the world, but the renewing of our mind to be in Christ. Now, it's not saying that the world is not tough. It's not saying that we're not going to go through stuff. Look at what our Savior Jesus Christ went through. We gonna go through things, but it's different going through things with God than it is without Him. Because going through things without God, it will break you, it will shape you, and it will have you interacting with people because your pain, your issues become your character, and you don't know who you are outside of. That's the reason why so many people grow old and they're in their twilight years and they don't know what to do because they've been fighting so long and they don't have anything to do. Many people, that's why I love Mom and Deke Mitchell, because they live in life to the fullest retired. They going around the world, they cruising, they enjoying their life, they doing all kinds of great things. And so a lot of people work so long and then when they go home, they pass. But life is more than that. Life is great. And listen, y'all, next Saturday, which is the last Saturday in February, make sure you check out Prophet Art. Oh, man, powerful. And then the first Saturday in March, we will be doing, we will be talking about transactional relationships. It is going to be off the chain. I'm telling you, it's going to be super powerful. You don't want to miss it. But I really hope this blessed you. And I hope those that's watching, especially the ones maybe that don't like me, really see the spiritual growth and see the mental growth since I've been in therapy, going back. Because I had to go back because I didn't have a place where I can release and get help. Everybody basically, I don't want to see your way because I'm too busy in my own way to see your way. And basically, if you're not giving me what I need from you, I don't, there is nothing else. So when I look at my life and where I am, I'm thanking God, because we have to put in the work ourselves. We have to stop looking for stuff to be easy and handed to us. Therapy, for me, has really been blessed and transforming because I understand that it's going to be rough. And when I look now, I'm so much calmer. I like being by myself. Do I want to be by myself? No, but I'm at peace. I cruise. I don't worry about what tomorrow gonna bring. I trust God. I know the right doors are open and the right things are happening. I'm at peace with my life. And I understand that it's gonna pay off. And I look at some of the people I've lost, some of the things I've lost. I look at some of the things, but I realize that no loss will change who God made me. I understand that I am more than my struggle. I am more than my bad experiences. I am more than my pain. I am a child of God. God loved me so much that He gave His life for me on Calvary. I am not going to allow people to dictate what I can become. I'm not going to do it. And I want you guys to really take this from what's going on. I want you guys to really understand that you are a person before the kids. You are a mighty person before the problems, before the trauma, before the mishaps, before the broken heart. You were created by God, and you were known before you was even born. He chose you before you was even born. Look at the beauty in life. We have got so consumed with what's happening in the world, which God said these things will happen before He come back in the rapture. We have got so consumed with what's going on that we have forgotten to live. We have forgotten the beauty of life. We have forgotten that even though we've been through a lot in life, we still have a wonderful life. We still blessed. He said, I've never seen the righteous forsaken or a seed begging bread. We are great. I look at people different. You know, if you're going to give me just what you give me, you give it to me. You know, that's what you give me. I'll take it until I don't want to take it anymore. We have to look at our position. I tell people all the time, you're not going to get me over talking me. I know a lot of people. One thing I say, and I want to end the show on this. My therapist said to me, and I say the same thing, is that getting away from negative people and getting away from negative things is stopping your participation in the parts that's making you fall. Many people get mad at you for blocking them. Many people get mad at you for hanging up on them. But you don't have to participate. I'll tell anybody, any given time, that if I am on the phone with you and you're going to loud talk me and go in, I am going to hang up because there is no value in that. And if I don't have you then, now I don't have you then. You know, it's no value in that. I am not going to force anything in life because God already worked it out and he's already done it. You have to see yourself different. You have to see yourself as one of those trees the way God sees you. You have to see yourself better, even if you may not look like it now. You have to know that you know that you know that God is going to do it and it's already done. You have to have peace in yourself. You have to stop letting the storm take that away from you. Stop letting people take that away from you. You don't have to be in the middle of none of that. You are who God created you to be. And the world didn't give you the joy, and the world can't take it. And you stop walking around with your head down. You walk strong. Know you strong. Know you great. Know you powerful. Know you can do all things. Because God already equipped you with everything you need. It's inside of you. You have to clear off everything from around you so you can see you, so you can know you, so you can know who you are in the kingdom. You can know whose you are. Stop trying to be what God never called you to be. God never told you to do that. Understand the difference between busy and effective. There are a lot of people who are busy, but there's not a lot of people who are effective, because you can't be effective if you don't know who you are in Christ. You can be busy. You can do all the work in the world, but if God didn't tell you to do it, it means nothing. But then you can do what God says do. And it may not look like a lot, but it's a lot to God. People of God, I thank you for tuning in. Again, tune in to Prophet Art. Also, go get help. You know, talk to anybody, talk to somebody. I'm a big advocate for mental health therapy. It blessed me. But if you want to do that, you can do that. Also, remember, be the change you want to see. You are great. Never forget that. And the last thing, you are who God made you, not who the world says you have to be. Bye.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
Views made on the preceding program are not those of WVTC Radio, iNetworks Communications, or their financial supporters.
Winning victory through Christ, WVTC Allsip Chicago, and iNetworks Communication Station.